Antonio Mendez stood silently by the floor-length window of his opulent mansion, the thick velvet curtain gripped tightly in his hands. Outside, the sun had begun its descent behind the hills of northern Spain, casting long shadows over the estate. But Antonio's eyes were fixed not on the view, but on the corridor where doctors and nurses bustled in and out of a room that held his entire world. Inside that room lay his daughter, Sofia. Barely 2 years old, and already life had burdened her with more pain than most adults ever know. Her once lively eyes now appeared glazed and weary. Her frail body had been consumed by a rare neurological condition, one that had gradually stolen her energy, her strength, and most recently, her will to eat. Antonio was a man who had conquered industries and acquired unimaginable wealth. But in that moment, as medical specialists shook their heads and murmured hopeless theories, all his money felt utterly worthless. He was watching his daughter fade before his eyes, and he was powerless to stop it. And then, from the depths of memory, came a name, a face, a moment. The park that day. It was a few weeks earlier, a breezy afternoon in Bilbao's Parque de Doña Casilda. The trees had been alive with birdsong, the air scented with flowers and street vendors' sweets. Sofia had been bundled in her soft pink sweater, seated in her wheelchair beneath the shade of a wide maple. Her nanny, Lucia, sat nearby, distracted by a video call. Antonio, ever watchful, had chosen to follow them at a distance. He didn't like being far from his daughter, not since her diagnosis. Hiding behind an old oak tree, he observed quietly, his eyes scanning the park's visitors. And then he saw him, a skinny little boy, perhaps 4 years old, barefoot and wearing frayed denim shorts. His skin was dark, his hair messy with dust. In his hands, he held a crusty piece of bread, nibbling at its edge like it was a treasured feast. The boy's eyes landed on Sofia. With timid steps, he crossed the grass and stood beside her. Lucia, still lost in her screen, remained oblivious. The boy smiled shyly and broke off a piece of bread. "Here," he whispered, holding it out to Sofia. Antonio's heart lurched into his throat. Panic overtook reason. "Get away from her!" he bellowed, charging forward. He pushed the boy aside roughly. "Do you even know how many germs you could be carrying? Stay away!" The boy stumbled, falling to the ground, his wide eyes filling with tears. A thin, elderly woman, his grandmother, rushed over. Her face was lined with age and hardship. "Please, senor," she begged. He meant no harm. He only wanted to share. Antonio didn't listen. He scooped Sofia up from the chair. "Lucia, you're dismissed. Come near my daughter again, and you'll regret it." As their chauffeur drove them home, Antonio glanced back. The boy stood motionless, still holding the bread, his face stunned. But something else lingered in Antonio's mind. Sofia. She had been looking back too. Her gaze wasn't confused or frightened. It was curious, and for the first time in weeks, alive. Days turned to nights, and the light inside Sofia dimmed further. Her lips refused even the softest foods. Her body weakened by the day. Antonio paced her room like a caged animal, rage building with each failed diagnosis. "If you can't fix this, what are you even here for?" He snapped at one doctor. Dr. Cecilia Rios, her soft-spoken neurologist, stood her ground. "Senor Mendez, we've tried everything medically possible, but this may be emotional. Sofia may be lonely. She needs connection." "You think I don't love my child?" he barked. "I think you love her deeply. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes it needs to take a different form." That night, Antonio sat beside his daughter's bed, trying to coax her with spoonfuls of broth. She turned her head away. Then he saw it again, that glimmer, a distant longing in her eyes, not for food, for the boy. With growing desperation, Antonio summoned his driver, Nicholas. "Find that boy," he said. from the park. I don't care how long it takes." For 3 days, Nicholas roamed the city's poorer districts. He asked around, showed photos, followed rumors. Finally, in a small park, he spotted them. The boy sitting with his grandmother, sharing a packet of crackers. He approached slowly. "You're Pedro, right? Do you remember the girl in the wheelchair?" Pedro's eyes lit up. "Sophia. She liked my bread." The grandmother, Elvira, stood up protectively. "What do you want now? You think you can scare us again?" Nicolas bowed his head. "Señora, I speak only the truth. Sophia is very ill. She doesn't eat. But when Pedro fed her, she smiled. She came alive. We think he might be the key." Elvira's voice cracked. "After how we were treated, you want us back?" But Pedro tugged her hand. "Abuela, please, I want to help her." She sighed. "We'll come. But if he raises his voice again, we walk away. I won't let my grandson be hurt." Pedro entered the mansion with hesitant steps. His eyes widened at the marble floors and sparkling chandeliers. But when he saw Sophia lying quietly in bed, he smiled. "Sophia," he called cheerfully, rushing to her side. Something miraculous happened. She turned her head, her lips curled upward. Pedro took the bowl of soup from the nurse. "Let's play a game. I eat, then you eat. Deal?" She opened her mouth. Spoon by spoon, Pedro fed her, and she ate. When the bowl was empty, she gave a tiny giggle and clapped her hands. Everyone in the room stood frozen. Antonio's eyes welled with tears. This little boy, poor, ignored, discarded, had done what no amount of money or medicine could do. He had brought his daughter back. Pedro began visiting daily. His laughter echoed through the once solemn mansion. Sophia became more animated, walking with help, babbling with joy. Antonio, moved by gratitude and curiosity, offered Elvira and Pedro a place in their home. One afternoon, he found Elvira in the guest room, gazing at an old photo. He peered at it. "Is that my mother?" Elvira nodded slowly. "Yes, I worked here many years ago. I was dismissed for letting my son, Joaquin, play with you." Antonio's heart dropped. "Joaquin, Pedro's father?" She nodded. The realization hit like thunder. The boy who saved Sophia was the grandson of the woman his family had once driven away. Seasons passed, and laughter became the language of the mansion once more. Sophia could now walk on her own. Pedro became not just her companion, but her protector. Clara, Antonio's estranged ex-wife, returned to their lives, drawn by the transformation in their daughter. Pedro's mother, Daniele, once lost to addiction and poverty, was welcomed back too. With help and kindness, she found healing and purpose. Antonio's world was no longer ruled by wealth. It was ruled by love. One evening, as Pedro sat beneath the orange sky, Antonio knelt beside him. "You changed everything," he said quietly. Pedro beamed. "I only shared my bread." But to Antonio, it had been a gift greater than gold. Years later, Sophia grew into a vibrant young girl. Pedro never left her side. Antonio founded a foundation in Pedro's name, dedicated to helping children with disabilities and families in need. He had learned that true wealth wasn't stored in banks. It was found in the smallest acts of kindness. And it all began with a crust of bread and the courage of one little boy to share it. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, one so simple as sharing a piece of bread, can change a life forever. In a world often divided by wealth, status, and prejudice, it is compassion that bridges the gap between strangers. Antonio Mendez had everything money could buy. Yet, it was the humble heart of a poor child that saved what he valued most, his daughter. This story reminds us that true wealth lies not in power or possessions, but in love, empathy, and human connection. When we choose to see others with compassion, even those who seem to have nothing to offer, we may discover that they hold the very gift our hearts need most. Let us never underestimate the power of kindness, because sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest miracles.